I still have X-Men comics at my parents' house. So I was a big Marvel fan. I read X-Men books. I watched the cartoon after school every day. So I loved X-Men. I loved all comic books. I was a nerd. Sci-fi, fantasy stuff. I loved it all.
When you got X-Men,
Yeah.
I mean, were you just like, holy sweet God, I'm an X-Men? I mean,
yes and no. So I auditioned for it in Toronto. This is before I moved down here.
Was this the very first one?
The very first one.
So it wasn't nobody knew it was going to be.
No, but I still have X-Men comics at my parents' house. So I was a big Marvel fan. I read X-Men books. I watched the cartoon after school every day. So I loved X-Men. I loved all comic books. I was a nerd. Sci-fi, fantasy stuff. I loved it all. But
Was your brother a nerd?
Yeah, but he's actually more into that stuff.
He's just more everything than you. He's bigger. He's tougher. He's more of a nerd.
Stop saying it. Yeah, he's more everything.
He's not an X-Men, though, is he?
No, he's not.
Is that still a point of contention over like the holidays where you're like, hey, how are you? Can you pass the? Well, this X-Men needs to eat.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore. We did. So there was definitely sibling rivalry for a long time, and I think that I did hold that over him a little bit. Hopefully not in a mean way, but I was like really proud of it. And
how could you not be?
Yeah, but I think it was like it would have been tough if it had been the other way too. So like I totally get it. I probably was not as sensitive with my bro as I should have been. Seeing as we're both actors, we're both trying to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when I got that, it was like huge. I auditioned.
How many times?
Probably about 5 times, and then
the last one is you and Brian Singer. And was it Singer?
Yeah, it was Lauren Schuler Donner, who was one of the producers, Brian, and a guy named Tom DeSanto, who was one of the producers. Mm-hmm. And the scene that I kept auditioning with was the scene in the movie where I tell Rogue to leave the school because she's not like the professors mad at her, and it ends up that I'm Mystique, looking like Bobby, kicking Rogue out of the school, which I didn't know, which I did not know when I was auditioning for it. But that was also the first scene that we shot, and I was super nervous. Like Anna Paquin,
how could you not be?
Was like an Oscar winner at that point.
Oh, that's right, the piano.
For the piano. Yeah. I was a huge fan of Brian with The Usual Suspects, so it was a big deal. And then it was like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart,
and they must have been talk of like, look, this is a franchise.
No.
Never once.
No. Well, I got hired as like a day player. You know, I was like a Canadian actor. I probably worked 7 days on the first movie. Right. Like, so it was just like, hey, here's a gig. You know, like it wasn't like you're going to be a part of this if it takes off. I also think it was a risky. This was before the comic book trend, right?
It was like before Iron Man.
Way before Iron Man.
Iron Man was the one that launched it all.
Yes, that was the one that really set off the whole Marvel stuff. But you know, Tim Burton's Batman was right before that, and
so good.
Which is fantastic. And then also the other one that I think people forget about that came out before X-Men, I'm 99% sure, was Blade, which is a fantastic movie. I still love Blade.
That's so funny. I forgot about Blade. I thought you were going to say Spider-Man. Wasn't the first Tobey Maguire You beat Spider-Man?
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure about Blade, but it was in that same time.
Right.
Like, that's sort of like, to me, an underrated Marvel movie.
It's great.
I love that movie.
Wesley Snipes is fantastic.
Fantastic, and it's dark, and it's violent, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It was just a really cool...
I'll bet they reboot that again.
Yeah, they're doing it right now.
Are they doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, there you have it.
Good idea.
Yeah, you know what? You know what I would do if I ran Hollywood? I'd reboot Blade.
I think it's a fantastic idea. So anyway, I auditioned for it, super nervous, and I was very, very excited. But yeah, I had no idea.
Did your brother audition for it?
Yeah, we both auditioned for it. But he didn't get past the first round of auditions. So that's what I'm saying.
Because he's a bully. You're the sensitive one.
I guess. I don't know. But the scene was kind of having to be mean. So I just think it's the way that we approach it. Like, I can't really explain it.
So interesting.
Yeah. But we've had that a ton. Like, stuff that Aaron will excel at or get close to or, you know, get the call back or end up testing for, if I go in for it, I don't get any feedback. So it's just the way that we approach stuff.